Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Council Member Pizzillo?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty Father, please look over us, Dias. For those about to do the business of the citizens of Goodyear, please provide wisdom. I also ask you to look over all our men and women serving overseas, protecting this great country. They do not come in harm's way. In thy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Councilman Gilzer will not be present tonight, and Council Member Stipp is participating by telephone. So what I need from the council is I need a motion to excuse Council Member Gilzer from tonight's meeting. Do I hear a first?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a first from Councilwoman Loretano and a second by Council Member Pizzillo. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. And that aye you heard in the distance wasn't a ghost. It's Mr. Stipp, Councilmember Stipp, and he is going to be taking part in this meeting via the telephone this evening. So it sounds like you're coming loud and clear, so thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, there's no expenditures to ratify, so we'll go right into communications tonight, and it is the Citizens Academy update by Parrish Spies. Parrish?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm just going to be able to give you an update on the new Citizens Academy. It's been a couple years since we partnered with Litchfield Park in producing this community leadership program for our residents, but it's coming back in October, and under this new assignment, I decided it was a great opportunity to enhance the program, to make it really engaging and more beneficial to our citizens as well as the city. And to do that, we're collaborating this year with the Arizona State University School of Public Affairs. And this evening, I'd like to introduce Ina Wintrich, who's the Assistant Director of the Bob Ramsey Executive Education Program, to just give us a little brief outline of what to expect.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor, member of the council. Thank you so much. We are honored to have the opportunity to participate in this year's Citizens Academy, and I'd like to give you just a brief overview of a few broad themes on which we're going to focus this year. One is to provide education and information on what services municipal departments offer and why. In addition, presentations will be designed to allow each participant to determine how the municipal services provided impact them as individual residents. We're going to ask to have them view their municipality as a destination community and the need to understand how that has happened over time from both a personal and a regional perspective, and how they can play a role in sharing and advancing that view with other residents. To create a sense of individual and group engagement through safe dialogue and conversation. Help them to know each other better, become aware of the diverse perspectives they bring to the Academy, as well as identifying what they have in common to be able to create a bond. And then completing the Academy to view that as not an end, but as a beginning, or for some, a continuation of municipal participation. We'd like them to come away with the thoughts and feelings that the Academy was not solely an obligation, but a true opportunity. During the opening session, the goal is to broaden their sense of how what is going on in the world impacts the communities in which they live, clarify their reasons for participating in the Academy, develop a sense of anticipation about what they can learn and do with the information presented, and begin to create a sense of the leadership legacy that they can leave and then pass on to other citizens. That is an overview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that's it. And registration is open for residents on our website at goodyearaz.gov/Citizens Academy. Again, we're partnering with Litchfield Park, so it's open to Litchfield Park and Goodyear residents, a limit of 25 people, and it begins October 6th.
Thank you very much. Pardon? Yes, comment from Councilman Pizzillo.
Just real quickly, I mentioned earlier, I'm a big proponent of this, and I appreciate this getting kicked back off again. I know It was quite a while ago that we had a full bower on the Citizens Academy, but again, much success I hope you get out of this, because I think it's really important for this academy to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda will be citizens' comments, your appearance on the floor. At this time will be citizens who would like to address the City Council on non-agenda items. I repeat that, non-agenda items. The council will listen to your comments and may take one of the following. And you can listen to this because on the second, when we start talking about agenda items, the rules are the same. We will respond to criticism. We can request that staff investigate and report on the matter. We can request that the matter might be scheduled on future agendas. You are limited to 3 minutes. Before you begin to speak, please identify yourself and your address. We would really appreciate that. It makes it so much easier on our city clerk. We have that for the record. So do we have any cards this evening?
I have one speaker card, Mayor.
All right. Would that speaker like to come up?
Mary Kasparek.
I'm sorry, did you say Mary Kasparek?
If I pronounced that correctly.
It's actually Molly.
Molly.
Oh, Molly.
Sorry, Molly.
Oh, Molly.
I live at 2465 North 164th
And Molly, I
Drive.
don't know, can you just move that microphone down a little bit? It's
Better?
really hard. Yeah, we have a room full of people tonight. We certainly want them to hear you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Is that good? 2465 North 164th Drive. My comment is about the artwork that's designated for the community park, and I don't know if I'm correct about this. I don't know where I read it, if it was in one of the West Side newspapers or online, but it's my understanding that there is going to be a $48,000 artwork project at the community park. Was this a donated item, or is this something that the city is paying for? That's my first question.
Okay.
And then, are there if the city is paying for this, are there similar items in the budget that are not essential at this time,
Okay.
and where the money could be used on more essential items? That's my question.
Those are very good questions, and thank you. And can we depend on the city manager staff taking care of that, writing up a report, making sure we have our address? Did you get the address when she spoke it? And
Maureen.
or would you like to answer the questions now?
I can answer the question. I can answer the question now. It is a part of the budget. It was a
John,
part
can
of,
you talk up a little bit closer?
I'm sorry. It is part of the budget. It was a part of the 1% art fund that the city council has imposed for the past several years. So any capital project that the city is going to do, 1% of those monies are set aside for art at some location to be determined by the Arts Commission. The Arts Commission has decided to spend, I believe that she is correct, that it's $48,000 at the community park. And as a matter of fact, I think tomorrow night, coming up in a week, is a meeting with the artist to discuss that.
Yes, and can you just review what the council's decision was about this 1%, that this was voted on at a certain time and it decided to continue it? Can you just give a little history on this?
As I understand it, this was approved some years ago, and the council approved the 1% of the capital projects, which of course these days is very limited because of the lack of capital projects. This year's current budget does include basically the staff salary for the art person, the art specialist, who is Diane Kripe, and that money is in the Parks and Recreation budget, and this money is carryover from previous years because there are no funds this year to fund additional projects. But this particular funding is from previous years.
All right. I'd ask the lawyer, is she allowed to make another comment?
It's up to the chair.
Then I will say yes, please come up. And I hope this is for information, more information.
No, my point is the city of Goodyear does not have excess funds. Just seems to me that the dollars that are allocated to these types of projects could go to something that's of more benefit to the entire population. You just had your meeting about maybe put more patrol officers. And just think the funds should go in an area like that.
What I would recommend for you to do, I would recommend that you put this in an email and send it to each of your council members and to your mayor. In that way, they can address even further some of your inquiries on this. Thank you. Okay, now is the time for the consent agenda. So would the deputy clerk please read the consent agenda items A through H only?
Item A, approve draft minutes of a regular meeting and a special meeting held on June 27, 2011, and a regular meeting held on July 11, 2011. Item B, adopt Resolution 11-1440, authorizing the city manager and chief of police to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Goodyear and the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to participate with the Maricopa County Neighborhood Narcotics Enforcement Team for salary reimbursements and employer-related expenses. Item C, accept the dedication of a non-exclusive temporary sewer easement which will convey wastewater from the temporary water chlorination facility to be constructed on lot number 373 within Sadea Parcel 2A, generally located at the northwest corner of Citrus Road and Campbell Avenue within the Sadea Planned Area Development. Item D, approve the issuance of a utility easement to Arizona Public Service Company for Admin Well Site Number 2, located west of Saraville Avenue, approximately a quarter mile north of Camelback Road. Item E, appoint Olivia Shaw as a new member of the Youth Commission to serve a 2-year term expiring on May 31st, 2013. Item F, appoint Michael D. Stewart as citizen representative to the Police and Fire Public Safety Personnel Retirement Boards for a 4-year term ending October 10th, 2015. Item G, approve purchase of a unified communication system, including phones, switches, and software to provide the ability to integrate voice, video, and voicemail from Black Box Network Services in the amount of $979,285, utilizing a State of Arizona Cooperative Contract EPS 060043-32-A3. Item H, adopt Resolution 11-1443, accepting the dedication of real property by Jeff Jacobs and Linda Jacobs, granting Jeff Jacobs and Linda Jacobs a non-exclusive sewer line easement, authorizing city manager or his designee to take all actions and to execute all documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I do have one speaker card
Yes?
for 7G.
7G.
It's the telephone system.
Okay. Is there anybody from the council that would like one taken off the agenda?
I have a question. So.
Okay.
I
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
would as
Fitt.
well.
I'm sorry, we didn't get that.
Yeah, it was cut in and out. I would like to see 7G pulled. I'd like a presentation on that.
Okay, so we have two people, a citizen and a council person wanting to remove G, okay? And we have one question on one.
It was on G.
On G. Oh, well, that just works out fine then. So could I hear a motion from
Mayor?
Yes.
Would you like the person to speak?
Oh, I was going to pull it off. Sorry. Yes, that's
I
fine.
believe, Madam Mayor, that you can pull it off, given the agenda, the way it's structured this evening. And then I believe that the council addresses that item next, but it would be separate from the consent agenda.
Okay, now I'm confused. When
Okay,
did-
I think, Mayor, you were about to ask for a motion to approve
Yes.
all the items. That's correct.
Yes.
So go ahead and vote on your consent items, then handle G as a
Good.
business item.
Okay, thank you.
You're correct.
I don't know. I was correct. Did you all hear that? Okay.
You are correct. I was.
Just want a little confirmation there. Okay, so let's, I need a first from items A through F and a second. I need a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
I hear a motion from Councilwoman Loretano and a second from Vice Mayor Osborne. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed? The ayes have it.
We forgot.
Madam Mayor, you need a roll call?
Oh. You just can't be perfect on this job, can you? Okay, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Osborne,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp,
Aye.
Mayor Lord,
Aye.
passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, it's your option now if you take item G and have a presentation on that, or because of the audience being here for a different item, if you just continue the agenda, recognizing that G will come at the end of the agenda.
Do you think it's going to take that much time that we have to go that far out of order?
I don't believe so.
All right, then let's just continue as we properly do.
Mayor, I got a quick question.
Yes.
H. What do we do with H?
We need to do something with item H.
Yes, you only did A through F.
You
I'm
only did A
sorry.
through F.
Right. Mayor, I move that,
Thank you.
we adopt number H.
Number H, do I hear, a motion has been made to adopt H. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion was made by Councilwoman Campbell and a second by Vice Mayor, was it you, Vice Mayor? Vice Mayor Osborne.
Roll
Roll
call.
call?
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne,
Aye.
Mayor Lord,
Aye.
passes 6-0.
Presentation? Presentation?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Is Kathy going to, or Paul? Kathy Fernandez? Oh, here she comes. Kathy Fernandez, our IT director, will make a presentation on this particular item.
Is it always proper to have her come up before the citizen that had a question on it? Or is it just the citizen wanted it pulled? So,
Well, at this point, since you pulled it, I'd go ahead and have the presentation.
Presentation,
open up
all
for
right.
public comment.
And there were also council members that went.
there was one citizen, I think, that
Yeah.
asked for that to be pulled. Yes, go ahead. No, he said to have you make the presentation first.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We didn't actually prepare a presentation. This was a project that was approved last fiscal year.
Speak up just a little louder, please.
We didn't prepare a presentation for this evening because this was a project that was approved last year, and we're actually bringing forward for consent this evening the approval of the contract to proceed.
Kathy, excuse me, could you at least describe the parameters of what's right before the council for approval this evening and see if that covers some of the items that they may be concerned about?
Sure. The request for the approval this evening is to purchase the core components required to replace the telephone system, again, which was approved last fiscal year. The contract before you is for a large percentage of the hardware, software, and services to replace the system. There may be some add-on equipment that comes as a result of that implementation because some of our remote sites are a little more antiquated in terms of the ability to accept the new equipment.
Could you just tell the public about how outdated it is and what the timelines were?
Well, the system itself is actually, parts of it are no longer under warranty by the manufacturer. In other words, if it fails tomorrow, there's no means of correcting that. The manufacturer does no longer support it. That's not the entire system, that's components of it. In addition to that, we're essentially can no longer expand. If we were to add any more lines, we actually have to go to Quest and buy and procure a standalone circuit. For instance, for when the police department moves from different locations and expands and changes their locations of their staff, those require circuits that are independent from the telephone system because the telephone system cannot handle any more growth.
So essentially what you're saying, the communications that the police department have through this system are inadequate.
Well, the entire city is actually inadequate. We've outgrown it, and the manufacturer no longer supports many of the components of the existing system. Was there a specific question that
On
you
the
had?
council, there were, Councilman Stipp, you had a question on this one.
My question pertains more to the procurement process that we use. I noticed that we selected from the state procurement system rather than taking this out to open bid, realizing that that is certainly an allowed way under the law. However, I'm somewhat concerned that perhaps we are only getting what we can get out of the box rather than purchasing something that is a little bit more specific. We're spending $1 million on something and we haven't. I realize the state has gone out for bid for it, but we haven't. So I've just got a concern about that, and I'd like to hear a little discussion about the rationale behind that.
Mayor, Councilmember Stipp, we actually did go through a competitive process. There were reasons why we ended up choosing purchasing off of the existing contract, but I will let the procurement manager speak to that, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Robert, this is Bob Carrier, is our procurement manager. Bob?
Good evening. We did, in response to Councilmember Stipp's question, back in December of 2010, we did do a solicitation. It was advertised in the Republic for legal advertising. Proposals were due and came in on February the 2nd. They were evaluated. We had received 7 proposals, 3 of which were non-responsive. Out of the remaining 4, IT evaluated those, and a determination was made partially that it was less expensive to use the State of Arizona contract. So not only did we solicit it, the State of Arizona solicited it also.
So just to emphasize that, you said we saved money by taking this company.
We did, yes.
All right.
And it is the pieces that we went to bid for. And we knew there was a contract out there, but because of the dollar amount, we did want to go. So we did go out and we did select to go off state contract.
Does that answer your question, Councilman Stipp?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this before I call the citizen up?
question.
Oh, yeah. Vice Mayor.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that this discussion began at least 2 years ago. And I remember one of the issues in that conversation was we were picking a number out of thin air because no one truly knew how much the system was going to cost. So at the end of the day now, we're finally coming to the contract, and I forget what the amount was. Were we under budget now from that number that was kind of?
I think we are, but I can't answer that one.
'Cause I thought it was, what was it?
I think
Kathy, can you answer that?
Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, we did an estimate based on budgetary quotes from a number of different manufacturers for a similar solution to include similar number of locations, staff, and services. So we did have there was some science behind the numbers. Right now, we should be under budget. Again, this is just for the core system. There may be a couple of additional pieces that we have to purchase, hardware and or software, once we get into some of our older facilities. And that's where some of our challenges are going to be. There's going to be some surprises, if you will. But we will be within the anticipated dollar amount that was approved for the project last year.
Well, I appreciate that, and that makes me feel better because I just remember it was a pretty in-depth conversation as to where this number was coming from. So
There's been a lot of research done to get to that.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, to be specific, the budget item was $1.5 million.
Thank you. And now
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see that.
That's okay. I guess what concerns me is I know it's needed. I agree 100% it's needed, but for me to vote on it tonight, I don't think I have the information. What kind of scares me is when you say we got some surprises, and I don't see any numbers that match up to the surprises that might be out there. I'd like estimates, honestly, and a little more information from this company on what, because I'd hate to sign a contract with them and then it's like, oh, guess what? We have this surprise and we're already on the hook because it has to tie into their system.
Actually, the surprises that we're going to run into are similar to the surprises that we encountered when we did the data center expansion project in the City Hall building over the last several months. It's when you get into the walls. And so it's more of our infrastructure that will be a surprise, nothing on the manufacturer side.
Any way that could cost more than what we're expecting, or how do we find that
It
out?
will be within the budget because we've already done an estimate worst case scenario, which is again where we came up with that dollar for the project which was approved last year. That's how we came up with that number, is worst case scenario. So the equipment we're purchasing now will get us the core functionality of the system, which was all of the requirements we put into the RFP, which is all the services, how you expect the system to operate, the technical specifications. When I mention surprises, that's more on our side in terms of infrastructure and how we build our buildings, how do we distribute our cabling. Can we use a single piece of wire versus two separate, one for voice, one for data? Some of those things may unfold as we get to the individual locations.
And do we have that budgeted in then in that 1.5
Yes.
million? Is our infrastructure costs are what we talked about as well?
That's all included, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't like the word surprise. That kind of made.
Well, and I'm not sure you were here on.
I
you
may
were-
not have been.
You
I
were
think I
not
was
in
here at the
office
very
when,
end when it.
Yeah,
came
and I think
around.
that's what happens sometimes, and I think we have to remember that, city manager, that we have people on the dais now that were not in office when we voted on some of these budget items. So,
And I apologize. We could have prepared a presentation, but again, it was
but I can
approved last year.
understand that because there was a big presentation at the other time.
My concern was I just want to get in there and then we're tied to this contract and then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, to hook into this other system, it's going to cost another 200, 300.
But it's nice to know in the estimates, they do behind-the-wall figures onto what the unknown might cost.
Correct.
And that certainly can be verified through past experiences when installing this type of equipment. So I do want to give time, thank you.
You're welcome.
If the council is finished, you have one more, I have a citizen that had a question, so I want to make sure. We had a card, right?
Mr. Gary Gibbs is the citizen
All right.
who wants to.
Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. First of all, I was very surprised to see an item of this financial magnitude on the consent agenda to be merely gavelled into existence alongside a bunch of housekeeping items. I think when you're talking about spending $1 million of taxpayer money, it deserves the sort of discussion and hearing that you're giving it now. Another thing to point out is that just because you have budgeted money for something, you well know that that does not require you to spend it. When I read the staff report and looked at the rationale for replacing the phone system, most of what I read, in my opinion, fell into the category of a lot of intangible immeasurables and things that were very difficult to quantify. In my mind, replacing the telephone system is one of those things that falls into the category of nice to have, but something we don't necessarily need to have at this juncture. One of the rationales was enhanced customer service, and that drove me back to take a look at the last citizens survey in 2010, where I found no complaints by citizens about their ability to communicate with the city via the phone system. Another thing that caught my attention were the reduced operational costs. I'm sure you all know what a WAG is. I just don't know whether you know one when you see one. But when I see a number like 100,000 or 500,000, that, folks, is a WAG. It's a guesstimate as to what future savings could be. I just urge you to vote this down. At this time, I feel it's an unnecessary expenditure during difficult financial times. Thank you.
Could I have staff response to that? Thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
Mayor and members of the council, in terms of the estimate that was provided for cost savings, that is tangible and it is fact. We have verified, and I can have the person that is running the project and working with the manufacturer on those numbers speak to it, but it is indeed a fact. It is not a guess.
And for public consumption tonight, we did have an inept presentation on this.
Yes,
There
Madam
was
Mayor.
much discussion, and it was voted on by elected officials at that time. This was nothing hidden from the public, and I also want you to tell the extent, because Mr. Gibbs, because it's a criticism, I think I can talk about this, he talked about it was just for our citizens to call in, but it's more in-depth than that, the communication. Would you just remind the public the additional assets this will have?
Well, a lot of the communication that we have now, there are mandates that require that we record and store that information as public records, depending on the course of the conversation. This will give us that opportunity. There's also automated call routing. We do not have that functionality to the degree that most other agencies would consider normal. Some of the items that we use are they're almost home-baked products, if you will. So we've found a way to make our existing system function like most of our citizens would like it to. Again, this goes back to the mandates that are required for how we, as an organization, are required by those mandates to communicate with our citizens.
And what about other departments or within the city hall?
Well, at this point, right now, we can't even do conference calling. So that requires staff to move between buildings.
Could you just?
We're very limited on the equipment that we have now. It's incapable of doing what most folks would consider a traditional conference call.
So would you say, if I said to you, that many times conference calling saves cities money because people are able to bring assets in together and make this discussion to make decision? Would you confirm my
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And even just regular staff meetings, you're requiring staff to move between buildings.
Yes.
And outside agencies, so that number grows exponentially when you think about the lack of the capability.
Yes.
And the savings, getting back to what Mr. Gibbs had mentioned, the savings comes from our ability to secure annual maintenance, which is a requirement in some cases, depending on the commodity. In this case, it is. You have to pay for the maintenance. That maintenance is included.
So
whereas now we're paying that as a standalone entity every year.
So if we continued to keep the old system?
No. The old system will go away.
It'll
and
go
that's
away.
And
So
we're paying over $100,000 a year for maintenance to sustain that system right now. And the maintenance is again based on the age and the quality of the product that we have. So that's where that savings comes from.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can I follow up with
Yes.
a question? What is the year of the current system, technology-wise? What year?
I don't even know if we actually have original receipts.
Is it more than 10 years old? Because it says that it
honestly-
stopped 5 years ago. Maintenance stopped 5 years ago.
No, I think the voicemail maintenance has ended, I want to say, April of 2011, which is a separate system. It connects to the telephone system, but it is a standalone entity. The telephone system that we have now, I think they've termed it as best effort in terms of locating equipment to repair.
And so just I want to be clear, you cannot do a conference call. I couldn't do a three-way call on that phone here.
You can, but you're limited with outside agencies and the number of people that you can conference in.
Okay, so you
And
can't do
actually, I don't know because I can't see the telephone that you have, but not everyone has that same capability.
Okay, so all the departments can't do that, like a standard, and now they will be able to do that.
Yes, that was the intent, and with some visual representation as well. So audio-visual.
Is this system, just because I wasn't here, if you don't mind, this system is something that will be able to grow as technology, because technology is changing every year. You know that. Is this something that's going to be able to be integrated as technology and the internet and those systems change?
Absolutely. We've gone from what folks might consider the big iron PBX telephone systems that are dated from the 60s and 70s to a more modular approach, which allows us the capability to expand, add, remove, much easier than the big box approach, which is what we have now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I entertain a motion, please, on item G. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
A motion is made by Councilwoman Loretano and a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Roll call, please. No roll
Not
call?
necessary, no.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Bill. We heard your aye. Thank you. The ayes have it. Okay, now we're on to the business section, and we're going to change this up a little bit, and it's not to postpone all of you wonderful people that have showed up here tonight to give your opinion on the first item we had on the agenda on the prison, but we thought that this would go faster if we go ahead and take the second item. So we're going to go ahead and go to item B, which we'll consider now amending the city code, making it unlawful to allow animals, livestock, and fowl to run at large. And so I'm turning this over to the city. I'm turning this over to the city manager.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, my recommendation to you this evening is basically that the Council continue this matter to the September 12th agenda, and I will give you several reasons why. Patrick Bray with the Cattlemen's Association cannot attend this evening's meeting, but since the last council meeting, we have met with city staff, ranchers, landowners, farmers, and the Department of Agriculture. Brandon Shelton, a farmer, and Jimmy Rohr, a rancher, have agreed to work on rebuilding existing fence that borders the farmland. Brandon has been clearing the area of the old fence, and Jimmy Rohr will move in to build fence immediately following. That's 2.5 miles of fence. Cattle have been moved to a southern pasture while infrastructure is being rebuilt. And the Cattlemen's Association met with BLM and plans to use range betterment funds to replace an additional 3 miles of fence in the problem area. There are several remaining issues, and that is that the issue of the cattle guard in the area of Riggs Road and Bullard has not been fully addressed yet. There needs to be a better understanding of the rights-of-way on roads like Bullard and others to understand whether fencing will need to be built. There needs to be an understanding of the impact of this ordinance on the Conley allotment in the Mobile area. The Arizona Cattlemen's Association would like to see, if possible, to have the ordinance only apply to areas south of Patterson Roads, that is, lands annexed with the Mobile annexation. This would influence where fences need to go. The city attorney's office has advised against adopting the proposed ordinance only for a portion such as they desire because of the fact that it's a traffic safety issue, and the concern for traffic safety extends to all residents of the city, not just one portion of the city. The coordinated efforts of the cattlemen and the farmers are greatly appreciated. They have been working well with us, and that's why we recommend that it be continued until the September 12th meeting, at which time the council should and can take a vote.
Do we need a motion on this to suspend? All right.
I believe so.
Okay. Could I hear a motion on postponing this item to the next September meeting?
So moved.
I made a motion.
Thank you. You make a second? Yes. A motion was made by Councilman Stipp and seconded by Vice Mayor Osborne. All in favor, say aye.
Can we have a
Do we need what?
quick question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Buzz.
can we have a little discussion?
Yes, you may have discussion.
Okay, you go ahead. I'll be next.
I guess the question I have is September 12th, we're postponing.
Yes.
By then, we will take action one way or the other, hopefully?
We're anticipating that we will be prepared for that. We are prepared to have this on the agenda for you to take action at that time.
Okay, because I appreciate everybody working together. My concern is, if the animals are getting in the farmland and ruining crops and becoming a problem from a safety standpoint, I'm concerned that we still have to get that resolved. So if they're still working towards a settlement or a resolution, the 12th, that's fine, but I think this is something from a safety, we got to make sure this gets dealt with.
Well, and that's, Councilmember Pizzillo, that's exactly why the staff brought it to your attention at the last council meeting, right, was because of the traffic safety concerns and the 10 accidents that have occurred in the last 10 months, I believe it was.
Okay. Councilwoman Campbell.
I just would like to say that I expect to vote on it on September 12th because we continued it from July 12th with the understanding we would do something tonight and now they're asking for more time, which is fine. But in the meantime, we've had the cows out again, trampling the farmers' fields. So this could go on 6 or 8 months if we let it. So I just would thank everyone for working hard, and please come back with the solution so that we can resolve this one way or the other next meeting.
Madam Mayor, also, Mr. Massey, there are some speaker cards on this item. I don't know if you want to take those speaker cards or if you want to just vote on the motion.
Well, I think they could, is it an inconvenience for these people to come back at the time that's on the agenda to be voted on? How many do we have?
3.
All right. Why don't we bring them up very quickly then?
Brandon Shelton.
Good evening, Council. I am the farmer out there. We are working now with the rancher to replace the fence line. That's volunteer work. I mean, we know that you guys all know, obviously, that this is the hottest time of the year. I'm not going to spend another $20,000 putting a crew of 10 guys out there to get this done. I'm not going to do it. They're not my cows. I don't think I should have to. But I volunteered just to resolve this problem. I agree with you. We're just going to keep postponing it. I mean, I guess I could bring the Farm Bureau in here like they've brought the Cattle Growers Association in here so you guys get to talk to the Farm Bureau and have somebody on my side. I didn't want to do that, but, you know, every night 40, 50 cows in my field, and they walk across Rainbow Valley Road to get there. So between the last meeting and tonight, nobody's been hit. Nobody's hit a cow. Nobody's been killed. But I'm not saying that's going to be the case next time I'm standing here in September. So I don't know why we wouldn't vote on this now. You're still going to push it off another 30 days before it goes into effect anyways, because it's been removed from the emergency status. So I'd like you to think about that before you make the vote, I guess. Thank you.
Next.
Michael DeRosier. And Tim Pearson.
Good evening. Thank you for taking your time. I am Mike DeRosier, the permittee of the below allotment. Public safety, obviously, number one factor. I believe we have that taken care of. Mr. Shelton, as he's talking about, yes, I purchased 3 miles of fence to rebuild this fence. We're taking way too long to get the fence out. It's been already 4 weeks since the last meeting, and we made a discussion to build this fence. So I'm coming down with a crew of my own so we can get this taken care of in this one area. I think you folks think that there's no perimeter fences externally or internally. That is incorrect. And where the Estrella development is, where the lake was one of my major waters, which in the Wallace Exchange in 1971 was sold. We had the same issue, same problems, fencing, livestock getting killed on the roadway until we got it taken care of. That was 10 or 15, 20 years ago. So I'm figuring if we could have taken care of it with the mass of people that's there in that area now, I don't see why we can't take care of it now. I just need some help.
Thank you.
Tim Pearson.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm Tim Pearson. I'm an attorney representing Mr. DeRosier, who just spoke, so I certainly agree with what he has said in his position. I think there's progress been made with all numbers of issues, with all people involved, council, with the staff, cattle growers, the ranchers up there, and I think that we've reached a resolution that at least respects Mr. Shelton's property. My client purchased the fencing himself a month ago, like he said, and it's not been demolition to put in the new fencing. So I think they're proposing going out there and doing it themselves in order to get that fence up. As far as safety issues, there are several alternatives I would like to propose and talk to the city manager's office about, because there are some otherwise ways to address safety issues short of fencing off all of state and BLM land. So I would support postponing it to September 12th so we can examine the remaining issues.
Thank you. Yes, did you have a comment?
I've got a quick question. The way the ordinance reads right now, if a cow wanders into a farmer's field and destroys crops, who's responsible for the crop damage? The farmer or the person who owns the animal?
If you approve the ordinance, it transfers the problem to the cattleman, is how I understand it.
Okay, but I
Right
guess...
now, it would be the farmer's problem.
Okay, so my question, besides safety, at some point, I think we have to address the responsibility of who's responsible for the damage. I mean, I don't know, it seems to me not quite right if your animal goes in and damages somebody else's property that you don't have any recourse to that. And I just think from a logical standpoint, I can appreciate the fencing. I never thought the ordinance actually required fencing, but I guess the fencing is required to keep them, on the land, but it doesn't require that they fence. But regardless of what we do on the 12th, I think it's, from my perspective, it's important, that from a fairness standpoint, to hold somebody responsible for crop damage from an animal that's not theirs. I think we got to address that one way or the other. So. I think that's important.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Pizzillo, that is the way the ordinance is written. It does not require fencing, should it be approved. What it does require is that the cattlemen are responsible for their cattle and what they do.
Through litigation many times.
Yes.
Restitution. Restitution. There's restitution.
Restitution, and but it takes litigation.
May I ask a question? Is there any intent to put the emergency clause back in since we're having this problem reoccurring and reoccurring?
I don't think so, Mr. Rourke, just Mr.
No, I
Massey.
don't think there's an intent to put it in, just because there likely would be some time frame required to use fencing if the cattleman chose to put up fencing.
Okay.
So I don't think there's an intent at this point to put the emergency clause back on.
Okay.
And unless that was council's direction.
We can talk about it
Yes.
on the 12th. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, of course.
I just, one thing that kind of, how it's written, this is kind of, I still kind of have problems with how it's written. That's another reason I don't have a problem continuing it. It doesn't really, it says all civil or criminal penalties, and to get the restitution on the criminal, they're going to have to prove that it was, rancher X's cow that did this. And I don't know enough about cows, and you say, I believe you, there's 40 or 50 cows. I don't know how that seems like a proof problem for the restitution, that you would be stuck in civil court rather than getting restitution through the criminal court or through the city judge ordering restitution, because I don't know how you're going to prove whose cow is out there. I don't know.
Marked? Brand?
Well, which cow
Well,
did it?
let's let our city attorney address that a moment. Mark?
Talk about that.
Madam Mayor, members of the council,
Yes.
I think it's drafted just generally like a dog at large ordinance, so you'd enforce it, through criminal prosecution, much like you would a dog at large.
We cannot hear you. Is your microphone on?
I thought it was. It's drafted, as I was stating, much like a dog at large type of ordinance. So you're going to enforce it criminally, so you're going to have to meet your burden of proof in front of most likely a municipal judge. Then, if you prove that rancher A's cattle caused damage to farmer B's crops, then of course, if you get a criminal conviction on the rancher, then you would seek restitution through the criminal court. I think generally that's how it's envisioned as working, much like, again, like a dog at large ordinance.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I just have a comment, that I do feel that this ordinance helps solve the responsibility where it lies, but it doesn't necessarily have a solution for the problem. We've all agreed that the public safety comes first with these roadways. But quite frankly, I also see this as it's a business. Cattle ranching is a business. Those cows are a business owner's inventory. And if an inventory causes a problem, then that business owner is responsible for it. And I think that this ordinance proves that. I appreciate the comment as to why, Mr. Massey, you didn't feel that having that divided ordinance within the city was appropriate, because I thought maybe that sounded like a partial solution as to having Patterson Road be the cutoff and south of Patterson. So I appreciate that comment, and I'd like to hear a little more from you. It doesn't have to be tonight. But I guess I will, I'm with Ms. Campbell. I mean, I won't go anywhere further past the 12th of September. That's it.
Any other comments?
Madam Mayor?
Bill.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Stipp.
I hope to never do this twice in a row, to be honest with you. My question and concern I share with Vice Mayor Osborne in that the idea of making Patterson Road the southern boundary of this, I'd like to see that explored for us on or before the 12th. I think going any farther south than that with this particular ordinance or anything like it is unrealistic at this time, or even in the near future, or the long future for that matter. So I'd like to make sure that we at least have that information and that available for discussion before we vote on it on the 12th. And I share the opinion. I won't extend it beyond the 12th.
Thank you very much. I think we can address that now, isn't it? Didn't we have some information on it? Is he talking about extending the same ordinance, not extending it to the Mobile area? Is that what he's referring to?
That's how I understood him. Mr. Massey does have an opinion on that.
Yes, and so that's what I was about ready to ask, Mr. Massey. Would you share that with us, please?
Well, I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around the distinguishment of putting an arbitrary boundary in. Just from looking at it, my advice is coming strictly from a municipal liability standard. I mean, once you have the argument that this ordinance needs to be advanced for public safety purposes, we're looking at empirical data that car accidents have increased between cars and cows in certain parts of the city, namely the Rainbow Valley area. So we as a municipality have recognized that there is a hazard, and it seems to be an increasing hazard. So council has taken action to impose a solution to that hazard. So my concern as attorney is once we establish that zone, where are we at when the cow wanders across that zone and we have a vehicle versus cattle accident, and where does our liability as a municipality lie? So certainly if council is interested in exploring a zonal approach, and I think our research indicated there's only one other city in the state that actually had taken that approach, and it looked like they were grandfathering in some annexed areas, I believe. We seem to by taking that approach, seem to be deviating from kind of an industry standard. So my concern is once we're sued as a municipality on the basis of that ordinance, what are our defenses and what immunities do we have, and have we deviated from an industry standard, and how did we reach the decision to establish that boundary where we decide to establish that boundary? So if council is interested in looking at a zonal approach, we'll certainly dive in and try to figure out some data that supports that approach. But as your attorney, I'm having a hard time kind of getting to the point where that makes sense to me from a liability perspective on the back part of the city. So in a nutshell, that is my concern. If you want something further in written form, we can certainly do that as well.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. Yes. Vice Mayor Osborne has the floor. Just one moment, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Massey, playing devil's advocate here. So the road, our actual road, ends at Patterson? Or does it, I mean, when do we stop saying, because it is a road hazard, do we say this area no longer has a road? Because then we hit the dirt road that's just the gas line road that is not even, I don't know if it's even considered our road. So where do we hit that point?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, I think the problem is I'm not sure we know where all the roads are. I mean, that is a dividing point, but there are other roads within the city. I mean, we're not just talking about one road.
No.
There's roads throughout the city. So it's, again,
okay.
I think there may be roads in Mobile that we're going to assume some liability because we've established a standard of care in one part of the city, but we're not taking that standard of care to our citizens in another part of the city. So I just hate to see us, taking an approach that's buying us liability later.
No, I totally respect that. And Mobile, I don't feel, has been completely addressed with this situation. So thank you.
Councilman Stipp.
I agree with the Vice Mayor. We have not addressed the Mobile issue whatsoever with this. Secondly, if we start getting wrapped around the idea of liability and whatnot, most of the quote-unquote roads that we're talking about south of Patterson really don't exist. They're dirt or gravel roadways that I would hope we would be able to find a solution that talks about roadway improvements being, as the road is improved, this ordinance extends further south. I believe that Rainbow Valley Road stops its pavement around Riggs. It could be wrong, but Riggs is much farther north than Patterson. So if we apply some logic to this, maybe we can tie it into the improvement of the roadway, extends this protection to the roadway from the land, and that way we're able to this incrementally as the city grows south.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Pizzillo.
I'd be willing to postpone it to the 12th if we, kind of direct the city attorney to do a risk assessment and take a look at seeing what would happen, because I tend to agree with, the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Stipp on, let's take a look at that to see what others are doing, and then have him come back with a risk assessment on what kind of risk we're looking at if we split it as such, or how we can, address that specific issue. And that, to me, adds value in holding to the 12th. But I'd like to try to get this resolved no later than the 12th.
Any other from the council? And my comments is that I think when we talk about this, we're all visualizing that tomorrow a fence is going to go up, and it's going to fence in the cattle. It's not going to happen. That's not what this is all about. So the cattle will still roam, and there will be still liability on this. So I think we need to know that. We need to put some onus on the driver's shoulders who are driving down those streets at high speeds without a care in the world. And in the daytime, if you can't see a cow coming across the street, something's wrong with your eyesight. You shouldn't be driving the car. So, there's those issues that the public has to stand up during this interim period of time before we meet on September 12th. And please, slow down when you're driving. Now, I'm in my feelings for the farmer. This is their livelihood, and their crops are being eaten up. So I guess that's costing the rancher less money to feed his cattle. Well, that's not the way the game's played. So I am in total sympathy with you, but you can see tonight by the questions on the dais and the things that we are asking about and things that are being explained, none of us were really ready to be 100% on this item tonight, or we wouldn't be asking these questions when I asked for the delay. So one of the reasons I went to the city manager as the mayor for the delay was from all the emails we were getting in, a tremendous amount in it, and the reasoning wasn't just the Cattlemen Association. They were pertinent items that we hadn't thought about, that we need to be thinking about. So we do care. I do care about your crops. But I do also care about the old age. We were talking about this weekend watching a Western, and I just feel like we've been taken back in time. We are going through the same argument that our pioneers that entered Arizona went through. So it's a complicated problem, and we have to be. No, I am not. My statement on this. Don't interpret my statement I just gave you that I have taken a side on this. I haven't. The side is what we need to do is best for Goodyear and for the people living in Goodyear, and that's how we make our decisions. So, because we've talked so much, could the city clerk tell me where I'm at?
You need to vote on the item.
I can't hear you now.
You need to vote on the item.
Okay, we've made the motion and we're all set. So should we do a roll call on this one? I would like to do that. I would feel more comfortable.
It's up to you.
Would you, yes, would you do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
No.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 5-1.
Thank you. All right, now I'm going to rely on the city clerk to keep me honest on this because our next item is extremely important and we have a room full of people here. So we're going back to business item A. We will now consider adopting a resolution of opposing the expansion of prison beds at Perryville. Presentation by Mr. Fishback.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll review the history of Perryville, the proposal information, possible economic development impacts, and some issues about the timeline.
Excuse me a moment. Can everybody hear him in the back? I didn't think so because I was having trouble hearing him up here. So, Mr. Fishback, can you make that a little louder, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I mentioned, I will be reviewing briefly the history of Perryville, the proposal information that is out there right now, the possible economic development impacts, and some information about the timeline of the hearings. In 1980, the state legislature passed a bill that restricted the inmate population at Perryville to 1,000 males and females. In 1984, they struck the male-female racial limits and changed it to a flat 1,400 prisoners were limited. In 1989, in special session, the legislature struck down the limit of 1,400 inmates and changed it to no limit on inmates. Governor Brewer and Bob Denny were the Goodyear's representatives at that time, and neither of them were present at the vote. It passed 22-4. The timeline of the events, I want to go over some of this very quickly. February of 2010, the state of Arizona issued an RFP to obtain 5,000 beds at 4 potential locations, one of which is Perryville. The responses were due by April 19th, 2010. March 19th to the 25th of 2010, Community Development Department for the City of Goodyear included this information in their weekly highlights to the City Council. On March 30th of 2010, the staff held from various departments held a meeting with GEO to discuss what might be involved in their proposing a prison in the City of Goodyear. We were especially concerned, which I'll reference a little later, about the sewer capacity. April 14th of 2010, the city attorney met with the Department of Corrections Director Charles Ryan regarding the RFP and discussed a number of City of Goodyear concerns regarding the location of a private prison at Perryville. September 1st of 2010, Arizona Department of Corrections canceled the RFP. January 24th, 2011, the Arizona Department of Corrections reissued a new RFP. February 24th, the request for proposals was closed. June 20th, I had a conference call with the CEO of GEO, George Zoli, and at this point, the city was simply in the information gathering stage. And we advised Mr. Zoli that the citizens had not spoken, the City Council had not reviewed this, that we could not give an opinion. He was soliciting our support for this proposal at that time. On July 11th, the City Council held their last council meeting and went on break. On July 14th, the notice was issued by the state of Arizona, and they have a list of people that they must, by statute, notify, one of which is each member of the County Board of Supervisors, or if it's not in a city, and each member of the governing body of the city or town in which the proposed site is located. So this was 3 days after the council took their break. On July 26th, the Arizona Department of Corrections posted their public hearing schedule, which we were made aware of by the GEO Group. We provided this information to the public. On August 3rd, the city posted the public hearing information on the city's website. And on August 10th, the public hearing was held. The state statute does not even require a public hearing. The statutes basically say something like 10 days prior to issuing a contract, they must solicit public opinion. Expansion of Perryville is not a city decision. The Arizona Department of Corrections has issued an RFP asking people to propose, prison contractors to propose for the construction and the operation of up to a 5,000-bed prison. That would house minimum and medium security prisoners. Male inmates would be included. Perryville currently houses 3,467 inmates, all women, at all levels of security. There have been male prisoners in the past. This proposal would add a potential of up to 5,000 males in this location. The contract term, according to the RFP, is for 20 years. The department is seeking offers that provide a phased loading of 2,000 beds to begin in fiscal year 2013, with completion no later than April of 2013, 3,000 beds to begin loading in fiscal year 2014, with completion no later than April of 2015. Funding for this project requires an annual appropriation by the legislature, and the loading of inmates is fully contingent upon the availability of state funds for the targeted year. The Arizona Department of Corrections has received responses or proposals from 5 private prison vendors: Emerald Correction Management, the GEO Group, LaSalle Correctional Management, Management and Training Corporation, and Corrections Corporation of America. The GEO Group is the one that's proposing for the city of Goodyear. The others are proposing for other sites within the state. The public hearing on August 10th is not the only way for citizens to make their concerns heard. One is, of course, this public hearing. Another is this is not an official public hearing. I misused that word. ADC, the Arizona Department of Corrections, encourages citizens to write to the Director of Corrections, which is Charles Ryan. This process is opened for public comment until September 16th of 2011. Let me address briefly the possible economic development impacts as we see them. Real property values in the surrounding areas will plummet. Among those impacted will be the high-end resort-style master planned Robeson community of Pebble Creek, as well as property that is currently available for development. The proximity of I-10 and Loop 303 makes Palm Valley 303 primed to become one of the largest and most prestigious business parks in the Southwest. Palm Valley 303 is a premier world-class business park. 20 million square feet are planned for the 1,600 acres. It will house businesses, office complexes, retail, dining, resorts, golf, and many other amenities. Strategically located just north of what will be one of the busiest freeway interchanges in the state. Businesses are looking for visible employment corridors that promote A, high-quality corporate images, B, desirable lifestyles, and C, stable workforces. Companies considering moving to the high-end Palm Valley 303 complex will have to travel north from I-10 past an even larger, more imposing prison facility. The economic development gains made by Goodyear in partnership with Sunbelt Holdings, LLC, and others will be lost. The city's image will deteriorate, and strong companies will take their business elsewhere. As Goodyear continues to develop the I-10-303 corridor, a 20-year lease on an increased amount of prisoners will impede our efforts dramatically, in our opinion. In fact, the state has an opportunity right now to financially gain, we believe, from the Perryville site. The next 20 years will bring major change and strategic development opportunities for this land. Instead of a 20-year lease for prisoners, the state should be preparing that land in partnership with business leaders and the city to maximize on the economic development opportunities we are planning for the I-10-303 corridor. Increasing prisoners in an area that has the potential to be one of the most successful freeway corridors in the entire valley is poor planning, in our opinion, and very short-sighted on behalf of the state. One final concern I'd like to note is that our sewer capacity is a question mark in our minds. If the prison is built, we believe that we will exceed the capacity of our sewer plant from the planning standpoint. And what I mean by that is we are required, once we hit 81% of the capacity, to plan for the next expansion. This will put us into the 81% category. So that will be extremely costly to the city of Goodyear. Importantly, the city of Goodyear, we believe, has the option of serving or not serving the GEO Group should they come to us for sewer service. There are no sewer services available other than the city of Goodyear. I'd like to mention also that Senator John Nelson, Representative Jerry Weirs, and Representative Steve Montenegro have all three issued letters of opposition to this proposal at Perryville. Again, just in summary, the last posted city council meeting was July 11th. The council wasn't advised of this action until July 14th. July 26th, a notice was posted or mailed, and the mayor and the vice mayor were mailed notices on July 26th. August 3rd, we added it to our website, and then August 10th was the hearing. Be happy to answer any questions. I do know that there are several people, obviously, who want to talk, and we have several people who want to comment about the employment corridor and other information that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I just expand on one thing real quick that he had mentioned? Just real quick.
You want to expand?
Just real quick on the sewer.
Okay, all right.
If I heard you correct, Mr. Manager, is that where they're located right now is not within our sewer service area. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so but we have a current contract with them to provide sewer for the facility as it stands right now.
For the facility as it stands right now. Yes.
So the question comes into play if they decide to move forward, whether we're required to provide sewer services. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. We are not required, but I'd rather have the attorney.
Yeah, please, for the attorney.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, if you look at the RFP issued by the Department of Corrections, they're certainly assuming that the city of Goodyear is going to provide the sewer services to this private corporation. We have an IGA with the State Department of Administration provide wastewater services to the prison, and it certainly specifies the gallons per day, and there's estimates on that, and there's caps and the dollars involved. It certainly doesn't contemplate an expansion of this size, and certainly I don't believe that this falls under that IGA, nor would we be required by that IGA to necessarily provide those services. That's certainly an assumption made on the part of the state, but we certainly have no agreement on that.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I also forgot to mention it, on the screen, there's some question as to, okay, what is the footprint of this prison? This shows the Perryville prison expansion area, and it shows the Scott L. Libby Elementary School. The prison expansion area is to be right across this road from the Libby School.
Yes.
No, I don't. Brian, could you? Thank you.
Okay. Like it's some
Mr.
of this-
Dahlke will.
Let's see.
This is the Perryville, well, that's the Libby School, and that's the Perryville expansion area.
Where the pen is now, the Liberty School.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, now it's time for the comments from the public. I'm sure we have many. Do we know what the total number is?
Mayor, we have 20 speaker cards.
Oh, all right, that's respectable. Okay, all right, so first card?
Arnott Duncan.
Now, do I need to review the rules that I reviewed for the consent agenda so that you know that you have 3 minutes? So please abide by that. The light will come on. I think there'll be a little buzz, and we'll let you know.
Good.
All right?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you. My name is Arnott Duncan. My family and I farm all of those fields right around Perryville Prison, including the 2 south sections of ground that are actually subleased from the Department of Corrections. As such, our main office is located on the corner of Indian School Road and Cotton Lane, 17203 West Indian School Road in Goodyear.
Can I, excuse me, I'm going to have to. Staff, would someone come up there by the map and just as they talk, point out some things, okay? So it just makes it easier.
If you'd like,
Okay.
I can point them out.
Well, no, we have good help here at
It's
the
all you.
city, so. It's a deputy city manager that's helping you out on this, so, all right? Thank you.
That's our distribution center. Our office would be up here. But you're on it. I know it. So anyway, what I wanted to point out, for the first time, I think it's wonderful that you are sharing with everybody that, or that the information has been shared with you, that the expansion is not going to be within the fence line. This, however, is a little bit skewed in that the information that's been shared with me, and my last conversation was with the GEO group this morning. They're all in Boca Raton. The 4 fields on the west side of the area surrounded in red, those are the 4 fields that they're looking to expand into. Just these 4 right here. Sorry, Brian. So specifically with reference to that, I just wanted to, this was the first time the media has been sort of showing everybody that it was all about within the present area managed by the Department of Corrections. And the Department of Corrections actually holds the lease on both of those entire sections. So those 4 fields are definitely in their expansion area and management area. Specifically, the Southern Departure Corridor. In 2002, the City of Goodyear actually invested $3.5 million in the purchase of Duncan Family Farms to support and maintain the integrity of the Southern Departure Corridor. This expansion would be right in the middle of the Southern Departure Corridor. It also would be, as you alluded to earlier, right across the street from Scott Libby School. I've been talking to the GEO group and have offered some suggestions. Unfortunately, at the present time, I can't share with you whether any of those suggestions are going to work or not. They could potentially move that area to another area a little less sensitive.
But in
Yes, I'm up.
Goodyear, but in the same place, Goodyear.
But in the same area, tucked up closer to the fenced area, but still in the City of Goodyear, just not in the Southern Departure Corridor. I'm just here to tell you, what we know about the farming aspect of it. We'll probably be okay moving someplace else if we absolutely have to. It's important for our farming area. All of those fields that you see are certified organic. We felt that would be one of the best ways that we could actually be within the City of Goodyear and work within the community. If you have any other questions relative to how my most recent discussions with the GEO group, I'd be happy to share them with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If I may, I'm in support of your opposition of.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Ron Jones.
And I know how, I don't mind the clapping, and I really appreciate it. But I think we need to refrain from that because, as you know, if there are people on the other side, it makes them hesitant to come up. So as much as I like your cheering and your enthusiasm, I'm going to ask you to refrain from that. And I know it's hard. I'm an ex-cheerleader. I know that. So, but we need to do that for the public.
I am Ron Jones, 17928 West Narramore Road in Goodyear. I am plant manager for Sub-Zero Refrigerators, and we are located right on the outside there of the whole prison system. We love our neighbor of the Duncan Farms. One, it's a very aesthetic place, but the land all around us is now zoned as a foreign trade zone, primed for recruiting businesses like Sub-Zero. 1 year ago, almost to the exactly 11 months ago, we met before City Council and worked out an economic agreement. And one of the things we said we wanted to do was invest a lot of money into the facility, wanted to bring jobs into Goodyear, which would bring some relocation. We have done our part of the bargain on that. We've invested $25 million into the facility so far. That's not including the purchase price for the building. We have moved 285 jobs into that site now. So we've invested quite a bit. We have more jobs coming in October with a new line that's coming as well. And we have planned future jobs in 2012, so it's not far out in the horizon. We want to be a fixture out in Goodyear, and we want to be in the center of a manufacturing corridor that is prime for business. Because, one, the foreign trade zone is a great way to attract manufacturing jobs. We believe that those manufacturing jobs create other jobs because we use parts to make our refrigerators. So a manufacturing job is a job that's going to grow. We don't believe the prison is something that's going to grow and help anything in the economy. So we are fully in support of your opposition to the proposal of the prison expansion. And one of the big things we want to do is we did put a lot of money into the facility. We want to make it a showpiece, not just for Goodyear, but we want it to be a showplace for Sub-Zero. So we are planning a sales area within our facility where we'll be doing training for sales, people who sell our product. We want our board of directors to come out. In fact, we're going to invite the city council and mayor and all those people involved with the city out next month for our grand opening so you can see what we've done in the building. But we want that place to be a show place. And when the first thing you get off the road, you see the prison. When you turn, you see Sub-Zero. We want not more prison. We want more companies like Sub-Zero. And just for reference, this month was announced J.D. Power's best refrigerator based on customer satisfaction. So the best refrigerator is manufactured in Goodyear, Arizona. And we want that to be a hub for what goes in the future for that
Thank
corridor.
you so much, Mr. Jones. Next speaker.
Bob Bambauer.
Mayor Lord, council members, my name is Bob Bambauer, Sunbelt Holdings, 6720 North Scottsdale Road, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85253. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. First of all, I also support your opposition of the prison expansion. We purchased, as you know, in July of 2010, about 1,600 acres that was called Palm Valley 303. We refer now to PV 303. It includes about 600 acres that Mr. Duncan leases from us, as well as another 1,000 acres to the east of Cotton and north of Indian School Road, which includes Mr. Jones's Sub-Zero facility, which we sold to them. In the last year, we have spent tremendous amounts of time and resources trying to accomplish and turn this into the best industrial park facility, not only in Phoenix, in the West Coast in the United States. And the first step of that was bringing a high-quality manufacturer like Sub-Zero and a high-quality employer like Sub-Zero into the market. The second thing we did at the same time was, with the city's help, get the foreign trade zone established for a few hundred acres of the 1,600 acres. That was also a very big step, as Mr. Jones said, to get other employers and other manufacturers in. As we sit today, we have a team of 8 or 10 people on the East Coast meeting with a very large employer for a 600,000 phase one, a 1 million square foot distribution center, a very high profile company trying to finalize the negotiations to move that company into PV 303. So therefore, we think the expansion to the prison will be detrimental to bringing these very high quality employers and manufacturers into PV 303, and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deborah Blake.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Deborah Blake, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Robeson Resort Communities. I'm their Senior VP of Marketing. And I am representing the developer, the Pebble Creek Property Limited Partnership at 9532 East Riggs Road, Sun Lakes, Arizona, 85248. As you know, Mr. Ed Robeson has formally communicated our position opposing the possible expansion of the prison in a letter to the mayor and council of Goodyear, the mayor and council of Litchfield Park, as well as Mr. Ryan, the director of the Department of Corrections. This will negatively impact our sales at Pebble Creek, particularly given that we're selling in the western portion of the community located closest to the current prison site. And that will negatively impact revenues for the city of Goodyear in forms of property taxes, sales tax, etc. So I want to thank the city council and the mayor for their strong support and opposition of this prison expansion with the current resolution that is currently on the table. We are not in support of the prison expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Anita Panea.
Can you hear me?
Maybe you could take it out.
Hi.
Thank you.
My name is Anita Pinella. And first of all, thank you, Mr. Bazzola and Mr. Stipp, for getting back to me so soon as you did in regards to this meeting. We moved to Pebble Creek about 3 months ago. Bought a home there, loved the community. Some friends of ours encouraged us to come. And we were told about the prison at that time because it was, and still is, primarily female. Minimum security, it was not a problem. In fact, I sleep kind of good knowing that. But knowing the fact that they changed it from around 1,400 inmates to, and they promised it wouldn't go higher, is my understanding. Now it's around 4,000, and now we're going up another 5,000 beds. Makes my skin cringe. I do not want to bring my family there. In fact, my daughter was thinking of relocating, and I would highly discourage her. My son is a parole officer, and he deals with this level of personnel. And the majority of them are repeat offenders. They didn't just mess up on a parking ticket. They're highly volatile, dangerous felons. I don't want them in my backyard. I want to be able to sleep at night. Just talking about it, I can hear my voice quiver. There's a lot of dirt in Arizona, and a lot of places this prison can go if they want to expand. The jobs will still be fulfilled. My husband used to drive 1.5 hours one way, so I don't think that's a problem. It scares me to think that that many maximum security felons will be that close, literally across the street. And the fact that they're thinking of turning over the security system to a private company, the majority of companies will cut corners for profits. That puts myself and my loved ones at risk. I definitely support your opposition to this proposition, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Kelly Downing.
It takes some time. We have so many of you. We have a number of people in the other room. Thank you for taking the long walk.
Thank you, Mayor and City Councilman. My name is Kelly Downing, and I became interested in this topic, and as I'm sitting here now, learning more about it and actually hearing people's passionate pleas behind it, it's important that as a resident of Goodyear that I get involved in what's going on in my city. And we all want what's best for everybody in our community and for our families. And I'm sorry. And so I come here this evening listening to everybody's concerns, and they're all very, very valid. And some of the things are actually quite frightening, you know. But what I'm here to ask and to talk about is that initially we have to have a prison system because it's just part of our life cycle. It's part of our living cycle. And we need it. It's a part of our society, but we never want it in our own backyards. It's always somewhere else. And Perryville was there prior to any of us being out here in Goodyear. When they built Perryville, it was out here all alone, and we all moved in to the Perryville community. You know, and now that the land is there and they're needing to expand on it, you know, we're rejecting it, saying that we don't want it here. Well, it has to be somewhere. It's a little frightening with as close as the school is in proximity to that. That's a little shaky, but it has to be somewhere. You know, I don't know if I personally want to live that close to it, but it has to be somewhere. You know, we just can't keep pushing it away because otherwise, you know, right now they're letting people out of jail because of overcrowding. You know, so which way do we want it? And it's really hard to take a real firm stance because if I lived out in Chandler, I could say I don't care, but I don't. I live here. You know, so it's really a difficult decision to make, but I like the opportunity that as a citizen of this town that I live in, that I'm allowed to speak on it and be a part of it, you know, and that's really, really important to me. And I thank you for letting us citizens of Goodyear have this opportunity, and that's what makes it such a good town to live in. You know, it's just that somebody just listens. So all the people that are speaking tonight and coming up, it's really important and nothing should be taken very lightly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Ted Blaine, Jeffrey Brown.
Thank you. My name's Ted Blaine, 16806 West Almeri in Goodyear. My wife and I are a one-year resident of Pebble Creek and 38 years in Lancaster, Palmdale, California, which is the North LA County. And we definitely have experience with this issue because they located a relatively medium to moderate security prison in North LA County about 3 miles from our house. And that was about 20 to 25 years ago. Same thing happens, you know, 2,500 beds. Oh, now we're going to 3,000. Now we're going to 5,000 beds, you know. And some people, I know on the email group, they talk about worrying about having those people here. The people in the prison are not the problem. Unfortunately, they have the family members that moved to be around the area. And Lancaster Palmdale has about 300,000 people in it, and they've identified over 100 gangs that are operating in that area right now. And it's mostly because the families are moving up there to be around the prison. Prices on the houses have plummeted. Our house was worth in the high almost $500,000. Right now we're renting it for $1,700 a month because we don't think we can get $200,000 for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jeffrey Brown, and if Harvey Post could come up next, please.
Hi, Mayor and council members. My name is Jeffrey Brown. I live at 16766 West Almeria. And they tore down the trees on to put 303 in. Now at night I sit in my living room and I look at the lights from the prison.
Excuse me, could you put the microphone just a little closer to so the people in the back?
We've been here a little less than a year, and the prices of the homes in Pebble Creek stayed more stable than the rest of the community. And if that prison expands, the values of our homes are going to plummet. And I don't see that as a good thing for Goodyear. The city police will be beyond their capabilities. The fire departments will be beyond their capabilities. And I can't see it as anything to help the city. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
It was a lot. Thank you very much.
Harvey Post, and if Dr. Julianne Lean could please come up next.
I'll make it short and brief. My name is Harvey Post, 15381 West Amelia Drive. The problem is if we don't stop them now, we have a significant problem on our hand. If you sit down and read that 182-page RFP, which put me to sleep a few times, turns out they have a breakdown of land that's available to all the other prison sites, and there's a total of about 1,000 acres. Unfortunately, of the 1,000 acres, 600 acres are in Goodyear. That means you're looking at further expansion down the line. How you stop that, I don't know, but we really have to take a proactive stance. After reading the proposal and dealing with government contracts my whole life, and I know there's lots of things that aren't above board, but one of the stipulations is that the GO, the contractor that's bidding on this proposal, one of the requirements that they have to have a hospital nearby within a 30-minute drive to provide services for the prisoners there. I don't know if they have commitments from West Valley Hospital or from Banner Hospital, but if they do not have anything firm, we might want to talk to our hospitals providing services for our citizens that they're not interested in providing any more further. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Julianne Lean, and could Leslie Benton Miller please come up next?
Good evening, Mayor Lord, City Council members. I'm Dr. Lean. I'm the superintendent of the Litchfield Elementary School District. And thank you. Clap already.
I'll allow that one.
I'm here representing the Litchfield Elementary School District Governing Board to express opposition to the expansion of the Perryville Prison Complex. The school district owns approximately 120 acres, including Scott Libby Elementary School. That's about a 20-acre parcel. And then 100 acres just south of that, directly across from the proposed prison expansion area. And to give you a reference point, Scott Libby is about 1.5 miles northwest of the current prison complex. We believe that a prison expansion would severely compromise parents' desire to send their children to any future school site located directly across from a prison. Prisons and schools in such close proximity to each other just does not pass any test of common sense. LESD filed the original lawsuit in 1978, which halted the construction of the prison in 1980 under Governor Bruce Babbitt. At this time, Scott Libby Elementary was of major concern to the school board and our community. In April 1980, legislators made a commitment to our community through House Bill 2081 that designated the Perryville site as a facility that would be constructed to hold no more than 1,400 inmates. I think you've heard reference to that tonight, and I have some historical documents to give you from our board minutes and old newspaper documents. We would ask your assistance in holding our legislature to their commitment to our community and especially our children. Education is currently in a highly competitive environment. Future schools would have great difficulty appealing to parents if they are located in direct proximity to such a large prison. This perception could render the large acreage owned by the school district undesirable for future school sites, costing taxpayers millions of dollars. As our city representatives, we respectfully request that you advocate that the 5,000 additional inmate beds be located at a rural facility requesting the expansion. The expansion of a prison in a residential area is a poor choice for the children of our school district, many of whom are also residents of Goodyear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Leslie Benton Miller, and would Kristen Bolini please come up next?
Good evening. Leslie Benton Miller, 16051 West Edgemont Avenue, Goodyear. Madam Mayor, council members, I am very passionate about this issue, and I thank you so much as I am in support of your opposition for all the reasons that have been given. However, there was an agreement made back in 1980 when the Litchfield School District was in existence. So the prison didn't come first and then the school district. There was an agreement made, and the state has failed to honor this decision, this agreement. It would be the same as if here I live in Pebble Creek, and I have decided that I should bring my 4 children, their spouses, and our 8 grandchildren into our single-family home because it would be more convenient. So I'll provide jobs because I'll have people break out walls so that they can live in this household with me. They'll pay more taxes, but really, that's not the agreement I signed. That's not the agreement that the city of Goodyear and Litchfield Park entered into. Hold their feet to the fire. Now, who is they? They are supposed to be our representatives. And if they can't do the job, they don't need the job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to have to ask you to please refrain from clapping and from cheering. I know I have to be the bad person up here because that is decorum for the meetings. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but please. Next speaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I'm not exactly pleased to be your first speaker that is not in support of your opposition and your resolution. My name is Kristen Bellini. I am a resident of the city of Phoenix. I am not a resident of the city of Goodyear. I represent the GEO Group, the proposer of the expansion for the facility at Perryville. And I wanted to come up here tonight because I really felt compelled to address some of the misinformation that's been discussed and even been discussed in testimony here and clarify a few things for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can possibly answer if you have them for me when I finished. But I really want to focus in limiting my comments to the 3 minutes that I have and providing perhaps a little opportunity for questions. I really wanted to go on record with some of the community benefits that the expansion of the Perryville facility through the GEO Group proposal will provide.
Excuse me, can we take the time? I don't want to clear the room. I really don't. So please don't put me in this position. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. I noticed that in the staff report, as I was looking it over, that under the section of community benefits, it just simply states none. And I want to go on record and make sure that you as the mayor and council and that all of the community folks that are here to listen to this discussion on the expansion of Perryville are aware that this is between a $100 and $250 million development. the expansion of the facility, depending on which configuration the Department of Corrections chooses. We have bid 2,000 beds, 3,000 beds, 4,000 beds, or 5,000 beds. So the numbers I give you are going to be in a range from smallest to largest. So it's between $100 million and $250 million in investment. The difference in having a private contractor come in and provide the expansion for the State Department of Corrections, and the Department of Corrections is going to continue expanding beds. It's going to have to, because over the last several years, because of Department of Corrections and prison overcrowding, we have sent Arizona inmates out of state to out-of-state facilities that the Department of Corrections has contracted with. That ships tax dollars, Arizona tax dollars, that ships Arizona jobs and Arizona inmates out of state. The Department of Corrections and the state legislature has made it a priority to bring those inmates back to the state of Arizona and house them here. It's more cost effective to house them here, and we keep our tax dollars, our payrolls, and our jobs here within the state of Arizona. So that's one of the reasons we need the expansions. Is that my time limit?
You have just the next time.
26 seconds.
All right, thank you. Madam Chairman, members, then in my 26 seconds, I would like to let you know that the construction of this facility will provide 400 to 1,000 jobs with payrolls between $22 million and $55 million, and that the taxes that will be generated just on local construction spending for materials and supplies is between $45 million and $105 million. Once the facility is open,
Sorry, but your time is up, so I appreciate your contribution and your I'm sorry, you're mumbling something at me. I'm sorry, just a moment. Is your time is up, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
thank you, Madam Mayor, thank you, council members.
Next speaker, Barb Julian, and if Tim Kasparic could please come up to speak next.
Madam Mayor, if I may take just a second while the speakers are coming up, I wanted to let you know that Granicus, which is our system of live streaming, is apparently going very slowly. We've received several calls about that, but I wanted you and the council to be aware of that.
Well, we apologize for that, and I hope that the minutes are being taken so that we have some information that we'll be able to give to those people. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Barb Julian. I live at 15797 West Merrill Street in Goodyear. I gave a presentation at the Department of Corrections. I want you, first of all, to know that the GEO Group is the old Wiccan Hut. I suggest you Google it and you look at what their problems are and were. They still are. They're not a good group. I have a letter, or the speech that I gave to the Department of Corrections. I'm going to give it to the clerk.
Thank you.
And you can see it, because it's longer than 3 minutes. I want to tell you an observation that, something that happened to me. I was leaving a grocery store, saw 2 little kids and the mom, and I said, oh, those are cute uniforms. What school do you go to? She said, Litchfield. I said, oh. Went to the car, packed the groceries in, and she was next to me. And I said, what do you think of this prison deal? And she said, I didn't hear about the prison deal until a lady came to my door with a stack of pre-written letters that supported the prison. There were people at the meeting, the Department of Corrections meetings, that were handing out signs that said, we need jobs. Now, this man stood there and I observed him. He didn't hand it to everybody. He knew who he was handing it to. So these were friends of friends of friends. And I want you to know that the GEO Group, I think, has a big coalition of different kinds of people doing different kinds of things that we're not used to. And this does scare me. It scares me a lot. I also want you to know that there's another group from this meeting. There's another group, I think in Coolidge, who has Hawaiian prisoners and California prisoners, and they're moving them out to take in our Arizona prisoners. So we don't have to balance this act of this expansion business. And that's all I have to say. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Tim Kasparic, and will Lori Fisher please come up to speak next?
My name's Tim Kasparic. I live at 2465 North 164th Drive in Goodyear, which is in Pebble Creek. I'm in support of your opposition. I don't want to give a speech about all the reasons. I actually want to get some questions answered, and I don't know whether we can do that. But has there been an investigation done as to what can be done legally to oppose this? For example, the filing of an injunction, the filing of a lawsuit. Could somebody, maybe the city attorney, explain to us what action could be taken legally to stop this? Whether or not there's been any consultations with Land Use Council to see what we could do to stop this. That's generally what I'm interested in. I'm interested in what our alternatives are, as opposed to just talking to the city and saying we're all opposed to it.
Lori Fisher.
Could we address that at this time?
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I'll ask Mr. Massey to respond, but I do want to point out that there has been a section added in the resolution which authorizes the city manager and the city attorney, should this pass, to take all measures necessary to implement the intent of the resolution. I'd ask Rourke if he has any comment with regards to the specifics.
I think all we can say at this point is we're reviewing the legal options. So I think all we can say at this point is we're reviewing all of our legal options as this progresses.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Lori Fisher. And will Ed Moreland please come up to speak next?
And Madam Mayor, while the speaker's coming up, I hate to be the person that brings this forward, but the last speaker reminded me we did receive late this afternoon 400, according to the people that brought them in, 400 letters from allegedly Goodyear residents in support of the prison expansion, and those are here. And those are here before you this evening.
Yes, we wanted to bring them up to show you, but I did receive, I think I left a meeting and within an hour, I received, how much was it? At least 90 some more responses than I had before against the prison, against the extension. So I think am I allowed to talk, say this at this point? Is this, no?
You can't.
I can't?
Yes, Mayor, you could, but you may want to wait until the
Okay, I'll just wait till the end. All right. Our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Ed Moreland. I live at 15849 Westmoreland Street, same as my last name. I have some more signatures for you, some volunteer signatures for support of the expansion. What a lot of people tend to forget is the prison has been there for a long time. I'm one of the few. I was born and raised here in Arizona, so I've known Perryville to be out there for a long time. The growth around the prison doesn't seem to have been a problem so far. There's things growing around it all the time right now. You know, they don't seem to be having a problem now, but I just like to say that, and that there are some support for the prison expansion going on. Thank you.
Would you give this to the city clerk, please? Yes.
15849 Westmoreland, 85338.
Would you please hand those to the city clerk? Thank you. Please, no comments from the audience. Next speaker.
Susan Sharp. And will Diane Burnett please come up to speak next?
We thank you again for taking the long walk that we have in location tonight.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor and council member audience. I'm kind of new to this. I haven't lived in Goodyear very long. I'm basically lived in Phoenix for the last 40 years. We have seen our neighborhoods change, and we sought to make a little different change ourselves. I'm kind of of mixed emotions on this. I've heard the people speak tonight, and I understand. Most of you, I'm basically looking at me. Yes, I'll admit, I'm a lower middle class person. I don't live in Pebble Creek. I live in a pretty modest home. To me, this expansion, while I'm not crazy about it, it does mean jobs. I have grandchildren that will be looking for jobs. And I guess that was my first thing. Like I said, I don't live the high life in Pebble Creek or anything. I probably won't be able to afford the shops that you're looking to build. But I'm still a resident, I'm still a taxpayer, and I guess I want to have my voice heard too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Diane Burnett, and will John Kaufman please come up to speak next?
Council members, my name is Diane Burnett. I live at 16577 West Monroe Street in Goodyear. We are directly southeast, about a half a mile from the prison and I-10. We don't have to go as far as Scott Libby. My children go to school less than a quarter of a mile from Perryville. So regardless of which way they expand, it increases the prison population. And it's not even so much the prison population, it's the private prison system itself. Guards and the personnel in private prison systems are paid between $10,000 and $20,000 annually less than in state and federal prison systems. They have an intensely high turnover of employees. It is not a safe environment. I would feel better having the state control in a prison expansion than a private prison system coming in here. I have a personal experience. I have a second cousin from Orange County, California, that was in a private prison there. He bribed one of the guards. They let him out on work release. He killed a man in Mexico, cut his throat, went back to prison, got out of prison, and he killed Tom and Jackie Hawks from Prescott, Arizona. This is the safety of our private prison system. Had he been properly imprisoned, that would not have happened. Tom and Jackie Hawks would probably be alive today. This is a direct connection. We have the Kingman episode that just happened. You want to expand the prison, you might just as well build that. That's all the way around Canyon Trails. I don't live in Pebble Creek. I live in Canyon Trails. Our home values have dropped. They will plummet even further. We will be in prison. We will be locked in. Most people are underwater on their mortgages in that area. It's a community that this is not going to increase revenue. The private prison system keeps that locked up within itself. This is not a good deal for Goodyear. It's not a good deal for Goodyear residents. It's not a good job creator. Sub-Zero is a good job creator. They have a state-of-the-art manufacturing plant over there. My son works there. We viewed that. It is amazing, absolutely amazing. Those are the kind of people that we want in this city to increase the revenue, not a private prison. With every ounce of your fiber, I beg that you fight this every way possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
John Kaufman, and will Marcus Perez please come up to speak next?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me up to speak. I think I'm going to swim upstream just a little bit and talk in favor of the prison. And I talk from a couple of different perspectives. One is that I'm a construction worker, and I do live here in the West Valley. My address is in Avondale, but everything we do is in Goodyear. We come to Goodyear for shopping. We come to Goodyear to exercise. We consider, I honestly kind of hate to say this, but I don't know where Avondale ends and where Goodyear starts and where Litchfield Park ends and all of those things. This is where we live, and I love Goodyear. I love what you and your predecessors have done with the city. I love everything that I see for the future of Goodyear. I think the city center that is coming to Goodyear is going to be a great thing. I like everything that I see with the future of higher education, the things that I see there. All of that is good. I also think that we need jobs. And yes, we do need jobs like Sub-Zero. We do need good manufacturing projects. We do need that. We also need construction jobs. And like I say, I'm a construction worker, and I'm here to talk for construction workers. Construction has taken a huge hit. Everybody knows that. there are, as you heard tonight, there are a number of construction jobs that would come with this project. But it's not just construction jobs. It's not just the temporary jobs that would come. It's all of the other jobs. It's the permanent jobs that would come with the operation of the prison. You also heard that this isn't really an all, as I understand, and I'm not an expert on this project, so I take this with a grain of salt. But this isn't, as I understand it, an all or nothing kind of a deal. As I understand what I heard earlier, it's a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 bed kind of a thing. So maybe we don't need to be talking just in terms of 5,000 beds, 5,000 beds, 5,000 beds. That's terrible, terrible, terrible. I don't know that that's really what we should be talking about. I think that what we should be talking about is what is the real direction. And if we're talking about the direction for the city, if we're talking about a real plan, and we're talking about the real impact of everything that's happening, and where 303 and I-10 is, and how those two highway corridors isolate the prison, how Luke Air Force Base fits into this, how manufacturing fits in, how does all of this work, then I think that all fits. If the argument is a not in my backyard kind of a thing, then I don't know that it fits. Every time I hear a not in my backyard, I don't like that. I can also say very quickly that I have done a number of detention projects in the past. A couple of them have been with the GEO Group. I have not done any other private prisons with anybody else but the GEO Group. They are a very professional organization. I do understand the concerns about professional prisons, and I have had concerns about some of the other companies that I have read about.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having
your
me.
input. Next speaker, please.
Marquez Perez.
Good evening, council members and Madam Mayor. My name is Marquez Perez, and I'm a resident of Chandler, Arizona, and a recent college graduate. My college graduate class was of 300, and of 300 of those, 40 of us were only offered opportunities to work in construction. I just want to say with that Arizona has a high unemployment rate, and with that, the construction industry is at an all-time low. With this job, many good men and women, hardworking, would be provided the opportunity to work on this project. And I strongly urge you to approve this prison expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Mayor, there are no more speaker cards.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear with it.
There are no more speaker
No more.
cards.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the deputy, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for making the presentations. It's always very nerve-wracking to have to come up to the microphone and face the council on the dais. And tonight, this was sort of a difficult situation since so many people. And I want to thank you for behaving yourself, because when I did ask you to suppress some of your enthusiasm, you did that, and I thank you very much. So next, we would like to ask the city clerk, please, to read the resolution by title only.
Adopt Resolution 11-1444, opposing the expansion of prison beds at ASPC Perryville, authorizing city manager or his designee to take all actions and to execute all documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
We seem to have this little voice in the background. The motion was made by Councilwoman Loretano and seconded by Councilwoman Campbell. I'm sorry, Councilman Stipp, your second came in kind of late. It's a kind of a delayed reaction here, so we've taken care of that. But we're going to open it up to council discussion, and since we would not allow you to be the second, I'm going to allow you to speak first.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. You know, the discussion has been very good, and I greatly appreciate hearing from both perspectives. But ultimately, you know, in reviewing the minutes that we approved tonight, several weeks ago, I voted no on a bingo parlor because I didn't think it fit into the culture of our city. And I can't, with any kind of conscience, support a prison expansion if I'm not going to support the bingo by the Rotary Club. So while I greatly appreciate everyone's comments and concerns, I think we've got a greater opportunity to bring jobs to our city that don't involve a higher risk to public safety.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Councilman Loretano.
I've been kind of itching to start this one off. For those that don't know, I'm a former prosecutor. I'm now a criminal defense attorney. So guess where I spend a lot of my day? Dealing with prisoners, going to jails, going to prisons. And before I give you my reason, I'm going to be very blunt. I don't want it in my backyard. And these are my reasons. And it's not just not in my backyard. First of all, the jobs are not.
I'm going to ask you to slow down because what you have to say is very important, and so you have a tendency to talk rapidly. So I know I'm disciplining you that way, but I want the public to hear this and hear it well.
First of all, private prisons do not pay the same as state-run DOC facilities. That's a fact. There's been a lot of reports lately about their safety issues. We all heard it was approximately a year ago. The Kingman facility was designed for DUI, non-violent offenders. Because there is a severe overcrowding in this state, there were put murderers in there. Their classification was reviewed because they behaved well in jail and in prison, and that's what happens. And they were able to escape by throwing wire cutters over the fence and basically like a Bonnie and Clyde getting out. That is a grave concern with a school so close. Second of all, I do go down to Florence a lot. And anyone who's been down there, aesthetically, it is not what we want a gateway to our city to be. We want the high-paying jobs. We want the sub-zeros. We want the construction to build those type of jobs. The construction jobs also are going to be short-lived, and we are going to have to live with a prison, and also there was brought up what a prison brings with it, which is of some concern when you have neighbors. I did live in Arizona. I was granted 10 years old or 11 years old when Perrywell was built, but Goodyear there was nothing out here then, really. It was very, very rural. There were not homes, very expensive homes, right abutting up to it, and I don't think that's what we want for the gateway to our city. I am also very concerned, this is my final of my kind of 3 points, with basically, if you say yes now, you don't know what you're going to get. And this is a great concern, especially with the private prison, with the overcrowding. A lot of the inmates who go into prison, and this is a fact, if they go in on a plea agreement, they will plead down to a lower level offense. So just because they're sitting in there on one charge, that is not necessarily the crime that has been committed. And you see that a lot, and I know the police officers realize that a lot. So because someone goes in on a lower level offense, maybe what's called a non-repetitive offense, it doesn't mean it wasn't dangerous. It doesn't mean there weren't victims. So that is a concern. And then when you start with the overcrowding, they can't, we have a booming prison population. There are cities that do want this. I believe Coolidge and Eloy, I believe, also was in favor of it. I say we not only say we don't want Goodyear to support it, but I say we support those cities that do choose to have it. So that's my statement.
Thank you. Next, Vice Mayor Osborne.
Well, thanks everyone for coming out tonight. For both reasons, opposition and support. I know that there is a need for jobs currently, and that's very difficult for people to say that, you know what, I need a job, I need to work, and even though it's a prison job, even though it's construction, there are people that need to put food on their table. So we do have to really think about that. But quite frankly, that's the present, and we have to look at the future, and we have to look at the vision that we have for the city. Now, I will tell you, my children went to Scott Libby, and this mama didn't like driving down Citrus and Cotton Lane, having to go to that school, okay? So I have had kids there. I know that feeling. It's been a while, but I've had them there. I also look at the neighborhoods. My friends of Waddell, my friends of Litchfield Park, my friends and our citizens of Goodyear. I look at the neighborhoods. I look at this possible issue with property devaluation. Not that we haven't seen that already, right? And I also look at public safety. I look at something that hasn't even been brought up. I'm the chair of the Maricopa Association of Governments on homelessness. And I can tell you right now, the largest homeless population downtown has quite a few people that are past prisoners. We in the West Valley, in the West region, have no resources. We have no shelters. We don't have a way to take care of people that are, quite frankly, may have done their time and being let out the front door. And where are they going? And they may not have any idea where they're going. So that's something concerns me. We can all talk all night long about the great potential of the economic driving force that we have in this West Valley. We are certainly, as you stated, not back in the 80s when there was only a smaller population of people out here. And maybe at that time it did kind of make sense, you know. We do have to have a prison to put people to take care of their offenses. But I also want to say to our citizens that you elected us to represent you both in opposition, both in support. You want to hear our voice, and this here at the dais is where we're supposed to do it. Here's where we're supposed to tell you how we feel. Here's where we're supposed to bang our chest or beat the drum. This is where we're supposed to do it. And I just want to let you know of some of the things that I have done to try to voice my opposition, to try to let others get the same position to send out their thoughts also. I have reached out to all of our local legislators and our senator. And we've already heard they all support our opposition. And I have reached out to many, many stakeholders, Sub-Zero, and our superintendent, county superintendent, Max Wilson, and the Goodyear Airport, and the Avondale School District, and the Litchfield School District, and Estrella Community College, and the Cleveland Indians, and Macy's. And I've made calls to numerous people, Fire Country Partnership, and to Waddell residents, and to church congregations. And I even on my own Facebook sent out an event tonight for 150 people to try to come. And I can tell you, this is all because I feel so strongly about this. My own father has all his life here in Arizona been in construction and a developer. And I know how that industry has been hurt terribly as he sits at home bored to death. And I desperately want jobs to come, but I want it to be good jobs for you. I want it to be jobs that you can build your future and your life in the Western Valley. And I could go on more and more of all the people and the addresses we've sent, and I hope that we will be successful at this. Thank you.
Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you. It's been very interesting to hear from everyone, and I hope our friends in Pebble Creek can now understand how complex this is. It's not just building a prison and taxing our services. It is taxing our roads, it's taxing our schools, it's going to tax our hospitals, and it's really going to change the face of Goodyear should this expansion go forward. And it's not the change that we want, that those of us that are here tonight want. We want Goodyear to be prosperous. We want it to be a destination. We want it to be a place that we're proud to call home, and that it's safe, and that we have the high-paying jobs. That's a no-brainer. But what's really important is that we have to stand together as a community and go forward to fight this. We are writing letters. We are making phone calls. I am really... This many I've answered. all in opposition, which is fine, because I'm in opposition too. So please don't think we're not working. We are working. But we have to listen to everyone that wants to tell us what they want for this city. And I respect those that want jobs and they want the construction jobs, and I can understand that. And on the other hand, I don't want to expand the prison because of the detriment that it will bring. The gentleman that spoke about Lancaster, I moved here in 2000 from California, so I'm very aware of what happens. I lived within 2 miles of Folsom Prison, which is a maximum security prison, and it worried me when I was in that area that there would be a prison break, and even in that one they could have it. But like he said, it's the families or the folks that follow these prisoners that come, that bring their folks, that bring other folks, and it changes the whole complexity of this. And it's only right because if you have someone incarcerated, you can only visit them so often. You want to be close to that prison. So they're going to move to wherever they are. I just wish there were some way that we could get the state legislature to lessen the amount of beds that we have, which we'll never be able to do. But I can guarantee you that if I hear of any bill in the legislature moving to expand Perryville, I'm going to be the first person down there knocking on their doors to remind them we do not want it any bigger than it is. We have to deal with what we have, and we will, but no more. We don't want another prison, and we don't want any more beds there. Either I don't want 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000. Let them go to another community that actually wants them.
Councilman Pizzillo?
Thank you. First, again, I know it's going to sound redundant, but I appreciate you all coming out today, both either in favor or against, your voice. Local government, regardless of what you think about the federal side, we're the one that's working. We're the direct service provider. You're the voice. You're the one that impacts day-to-day lives, so we really appreciate you coming out. With that being said, it's hard to add a whole lot to STIP. I agree with the culture, Councilmember STIP. I don't think this is the right way for us to go. And as far as the impacts, I agree with Councilmember Loretano. With the prisons, the type that come in there, how they plea them down, what that adds, and whether it's going to be a gateway to our community. I think we can do better, especially with the 303. A couple things I do want to add, though, is, first of all, I would ask the attorney, and again, I kind of linked on that sewer deal. First thing, there are communities that want this prison. Actually supporting and want it there. I believe Coolidge is one of them. I believe Eloy. I believe Winslow. And I'm trying to think, there was about 4 of them in there. I'm hoping the state has sense enough to go where people want them to be versus not want them to be. I'm counting on that, but the state. But I'm hoping the ultimate decision makers will go in that direction because there are communities that actually want this. Second thing is on the sewer. I really appreciate the fact that, and again, I would suggest we hold the line on that when it comes to the agreement on the sewer, especially with the prison, and make sure they're aware of, we do not take a position that actually that will provide it. You got to have sewer if you have beds. Second thing is, as far as the attorney's office, I got a question for the attorney, because we talk about some of the issues in the prisons and what kind of contact. It's my understanding you've had some in the past, and they're kind of aware of some of these issues. Is that accurate?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, yes, I think as the city manager went through the timeline, certainly the RFP was let out in early 2010, and it was suspended, let out again, suspended. City was certainly becoming aware of this possibly back February, March of 2010. Concerns were raised among city staff, and I did meet with Director Ryan back in April of 2010, and we expressed many of the concerns that are being expressed tonight. And certainly it was on DOC's radar in April of 2010 that likely there were going to be issues, and the city was not supportive of this at that time, and there was a lot of city issues that need to be addressed. Increased demands on city services. What wasn't discussed tonight was the fire department having to provide services to the prison. The police department increased load as far as the prison. We discussed the applicability of city regulations and zoning and whether or not there's a role to play there, and the difference between a private prison and a state prison. So that was certainly an area where we agreed to disagree at the end of the meeting. We talked about the future of the F-35. Certainly, as Mr. Duncan talked about earlier this evening, the city has always been a strong supporter of the Southern Departure Corridor, to the extent that back in 2002, we bought the Duncan Family Farms for the fact that there was concerns by the Air Force of the high concentrations of individuals in the APC, or the Accident Potential Zone, and what would we be looking at during this F-35 siting process of the potential of locating 5,000 people right in the middle of the APC. So certainly a lot of those concerns were expressed to DOC back in April of 2010 on behalf of the city.
I appreciate that, and again, I hope when it comes down to locating, whenever they make the final decision there at the state, you don't locate a prison across from a school. I'm sorry, you just don't do that. So with that, again, I'm in full support, and I appreciate the fact you entered that one paragraph within the resolution there, which, you know, if adopted, will authorize you to take whatever legal action to carry out the terms and intent of the resolution. I appreciate that. So with that, you know, I guess you all can gather by now, I'm not in favor. I don't think it's the vision of this city to move us forward, especially the location of that, and I will be voting for the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Council, for all your comments and input into this. I am in total agreement with everything that you said. I want you to know I was accused of not leading the city, of failing you, because early on I did come out with a statement that would directly oppose this prison. I was called by GEO to ask my opinion on this, and it was just before, it was while we were on supposedly council leave. Out of 28 days, I think I have taken 8 of those days off. So I was here. I happened to be away when this seemed to break out. I have never wanted continuation of this prison. But as your mayor, my job is to seek you, the residents, out to see how you feel. You know, people talk about we want the government in our hands, we want to have control of your citizens, so I'm giving you that control by keeping my opinions to myself till I started hearing from the public and where you stood on this. And, you know, tonight's what America's all about. We had both sides here, both giving their opinions on whether or not they want the expansion of this prison. I have worked, and your council has worked extremely hard during this downturn to increase the economic development in our city. And out of all of the cities, we have probably recruited and acquired more companies in the downturn, I would venture to say, than any other city in the valley during the downturn. We have increased new jobs in the last just 2 years, at least 1,300 to 1,500 jobs, and more before those 2 years. So that is the direction we have been taking, because what is going to make Goodyear sustainable is adding good companies with good jobs, with better pay than someone would make at a prison. Not only that, you bring companies in that grow other companies in. A prison does not grow anything but more prisoners. We don't need that. When they decided in Goodyear to build this original institution, they didn't have a vision what Goodyear was going to be about. They didn't even have a huge population. So the prison was built, even though there was really some extraordinary opposition to it. So Goodyear developed, and look where we've come. So there is, at this time, there is not room for us in our vision to expand that prison. And I will fight extremely hard not to let that happen. But I do have some limitations, And so when this came up, my conversation with Senator Nelson, who happens to be here this evening, with Jerry Wires, who I caught in the middle of his vacation in the Redwoods, and asked him if he would please rescind his original opinion on this prison. Representative Montenegro, bless his heart, had surgery, and even though that part, he finally got in communication with us. So we have been working on this. The staff knew it ahead of time. It isn't something that we put on the table for a later date. We're doing everything we can within the confines of what a city council can do and a staff. And we will go into litigation if we have to. How successful that will be, I don't know. Do you? And I do want you to sort of give us kind of an idea where you think as soon as I finish here. I know that's a hard question for you. So I don't mean to put you, I don't want you to be inside. I love this city. I respect the individual that came up and said that she doesn't live in Pebble Creek, and so she brought her opinions for us. I understand people wanting jobs, but you know what? I want to give you better paying jobs, and I think we can continue to do that. So we're here. I thank you, and when we talked about all these letters that were presented to us today, what were they? How many are supposed to be in there?
400.
400? Well, not to worry, because we had close to that on the other side, too. So we had people sending us emails that live in Goodyear, that live the surrounding area in Arizona, and we had a number of at least over 100 from out of state. I believe everybody's emails, we attempted to answer everybody's emails. So if we missed someone, we're sorry, but I think everybody worked very hard at responding in some way. I did not want to jeopardize this resolution in any way. For me to come out and tell you my opinion, and that opinion spreads by a chain to the next council person, to the next council, I did not want to be accused of that. So I waited till the process took place, and tonight, this is the opportunity that you're hearing your council people explain to you what position that they're taking on this. So with that, I think we're ready to go ahead and ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stipp?
Let me clarify. We're voting on the resolution in opposition to the prison, correct?
Yes.
Yes. My vote is yes.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. You can clap now. I can clap now. This was all done very legally. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is for comments or reports from the mayor or council. And I do have something, so, but no, you have something?
No, I'll do it next time.
Okay. I do have something that I want to talk to the council about, and I'm going to sort of read this so I don't miss any of it. But in reviewing the future agendas, I see in November the City Council is scheduled to discuss the current compensation and classification system for the city employees. This presentation will be given to help the council better understand city's current performance appraisals and the overall program's philosophy, including reviewing and identifying how and if employees are to receive a merit increase or whether it is a one-step or two-step process. Understanding this is an important consideration as we discuss the policy direction regarding our overall compensation program for our employees. I value the contribution of each employee makes to the quality of life for our community, but at the same time, I recognize that the last 3.5 years we have eliminated many of their benefits. So I just want to be ensured that the staff is conducting performance appraisals measured in a consistent, fair, respectful manner and is well documented for all employees. So just to kind of give you a heads up what's coming, and so that if you have any questions or information that you need to be getting, you'll have that at your doorstep. The second thing is, we've had this before, Mr. Fishback, when we get new council people on board, there are many issues that they weren't on the dais to vote on. So tonight was a prime example of that when they were talking about the telephone system. So I don't know how we do this, if we bring up information from that council meeting and, just put it in their packets. Would that help? I'm looking to you to just review on what went on when you were not on the council at that time?
Madam Mayor, one thing that I could point out is that, I don't know if the phone system was one of them, but we issue a lot of what we refer to as yellow papers
Yes, you do.
to the council. And a couple months ago, I furnished all of the council with a system that goes back, I think it's 10 years, for all of those yellow papers. And we gave you an index of all of the yellow papers that are available. I can reissue that to all
Well,
of you.
no, why don't you you can just treat us like Dick and Jane and just remind us, a reminder, would that help? Just that.
He told us before the meeting that it's on a yellow page.
Okay,
Otherwise,
so-
we don't have any
so-
background when we get our packet.
Yes, so if you could do that we really appreciate to simplify things for us. Sometimes we need some help, and this is one case I think that would help everybody up here with the information and might prevent some of these questions that are coming forth.
Certainly.
I know it's extra work, but I would really appreciate it.
Certainly, no
Okay.
problem. Thank you.
Other comments? None whatsoever? Does the manager have anything for us?
No, I don't this evening, Madam Mayor.
Okay, well, with that, yeah, well, I need to adjourn this. People have to know we have a second work session that we're going to have to go in. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and then we'll go into the next work session. So is 9 o'clock okay? Can you make it back by 9? Okay, so.
And we'll do that work session. You can stay up there.
Okay, that would be great. We appreciate it.
Right?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, oh, yes, Mr. Stipp.
just for the rest of the council's information, I will be dropping off this phone call for that second work session.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being on it for the regular meeting, and safe trip home. Okay, with that.
Thank you. I've been going for the last 22 hours. I appreciate it.
With that, we're adjourning the meeting.